I think I got cut off on the last video. Perhaps I ran the limit of time available when filming, so let me pick it up again. This will be part 2. So these 2 MASH novels I found. I think they were maybe $2-3 each. Don't remember where I got them, but in great condition. So good find, and I already have the first novel. Now here was a nice find, Logan's Run. This was inexpensive. I don't know, it might have been $2-3, in really great shape, and this was a great movie. I might read this. So that was a good deal. Like the cover. Now these books I'm about to go over were all free and all at the Phoenix bookshop outside, and science fiction books. Now I don't read science fiction, but these were free, and I've always kind of been interested in seeing what the genre would be like. So this is what I picked up. There were a few books that interested me that I took, and these are them. So The Other Side of Nowhere by Mary, it looks like Leonster. The Other Side of Nowhere. These are all vintage, and these are all like in great condition. Like The Arsenal Out of Time by David McDaniel. Space Gypsies, another one by Mary Leonster. Cool cover. Science Fiction Oddities, edited by Groff Conklin. Stories by Isaac Asimov and Frederick Pohl and others. So that seemed like a good deal. Free. The Planets of Death, Michael Collins, again free. Genius Unlimited. Inherit the Stars. Behind the Walls of Terror. Now, I've always had an interest in Tarzan, and sitting outside of that Phoenix used bookstore were some Tarzan novels. About half of these were free, and the other half I purchased elsewhere for maybe anywhere from $1 to like $3 or $4 each. So let me go over them. Tarzan Alive. This one I purchased. I think this one was $1. And by the way, this one is not by Burroughs. This is by Philip Jose Farmer. Now, about half of these were free. Let me just go over them. That's Tarzan number 1, Tarzan number 6, Tarzan number 7, again in number 7, Tarzan number 8, Tarzan number 9, Tarzan number 10, Tarzan number 11, and Tarzan number 16. I never would have bought any of them, but after getting the free ones, I figured, well, as I saw a few of them in other stores, not too expensive, I figured I'd add to my collection if they were really in great shape. And this series, you can see they're all from the same series, black covers. I think it's 24 altogether. There's other ones that I had seen from different reprintings with different covers, and they were relatively cheap, but I was already getting in over my head with the Tarzan, so I let them go, even though they were really nice and vintage with great covers. But I just want to stick to the black ones, the black covers if I can. And although I did get one that wasn't black, the first one down there was $1. So the other ones were more, maybe $3-4. So I didn't want to get them all. This was relatively cheap. This is the first one. Had an introduction by John Taliaferro. I think he wrote a book about Charlie Russell. So that's something of interest to me, and this had an introduction, so I figured I'd get it just for the introduction, even though I had purchased the book without the introduction. Now let's move on to the history books. This book, With Crook in the Indian Wars, has a homemade paper cover here. This is John Gregory Bork. This is a limited edition reprinting. Someone did write their name in it in 1968. Normally that would bother me, but I thought it was kind of cool that someone owned this book back then and wrote their name in it, and you could kind of see someone was interested in this. This is book number 1153 of 2100. It's hardcover. It's got some fold-out maps. And even though I have this this particular article by Bork elsewhere. To have it in this hardcover is really nice. So that was a good find. And also it was marked at 15, but I talked the guy down to 10. So that was a steal. The Saga of the Buffalo, Cy Martin. This book I have, but it was such great condition and was cheap, so I figured I'd get another backup copy, The Last Years of Sitting Bull. This book is called Artists and Illustrators of the Old West by Taft. His name is Robert Taft. I have this book already, hardcover with dust jacket. It's so nice, I didn't want to really touch it if I didn't have to, so that could be my reading copy right there. This was a free book at that Phoenix bookstore. George Caleb Bingham, University of Oklahoma Press. There was no jacket. It's written by John Francis McDermott, and the book itself looks like it's really never been read. It's ex-library, but the book itself is like in mint condition. So, and it was free. This book I have, same copy, hardcover, dust jacket, but this was it was marked $6. I got it for $5 because I asked if I can have it for less. And the reason why I bought it was because it was signed by Marshall Sprague, the author, and I think he's a really good writer. So I had read a book of his called Massacre about the short-lived Ute War of 1879. These two books right here are about George Catlin. This book I had never heard of, George Catlin, Indian Gallery, the story of George Catlin by Mary Sayre Haverstock. Never heard of it, but it looked good, great condition, price was right, not too high, so I got that. And this one here I have in a reprint of soft cover, but this was hardcover. It was $30, a little bit steep, but I really wanted it. It was in great condition, George Catlin. And let's get down to some of the ending books here. So I've got Speaking About Custer by Sandy Bernard, Volume 1. This was relatively cheap. I think it was maybe $6, $7. Great condition. Articles about Custer. Fort Union by Utley. Indian Soldier and Settler, also by Utley. I have this one with a different color cover. I think it's green, so now I've got the black one. These two are interesting. They were Paul Hedren, King on Custer, an annotated bibliography. It's just a little booklet. I think it was like $10, but very hard to find, collectible. And I know Paul, so I figured I want to get these. This here is Charles King's article about Custer's Last Stand. I think it's introduced by Hedren also. And again, it was $10. Very thin, but collectible. And because I know Paul, I wanted to have it. Then I found these. These were $2 each. Montana Magazine of Western History. Each one has a different article about Sacagawea, or Sacagawea, however you want to pronounce it. And so they were $2 each, and that seemed like a really great condition, good deal. I found all of these in the same store, by the way, all these little items here. The Alamo looked interesting, and Charlie Russell and the Ladies in His Life. This is a reprint of an article from Montana Magazine, which I have, but this seemed like a really cool item to have with Charlie Russell. Some color images inside. So that was a great deal. And let's get down to the very end now. Okay. This I picked up at the Frederick Remington Museum. It was the last one they had. This is by Brian Dippy. The brief article by him in here with some images by Russell and Remington from an exhibition some years ago. So that was a really nice find, last one they had. This here, I have other books from this series with different artists. Can't remember which artist right now, but basically it's cheap reproductions. The images aren't really always colored right, but it's Charlie Russell, and it was cheap. This book, I've got two of them, and I'll explain how come I have two of them in a moment. But this covers the artwork that's in the Rockville Museum in Corning, New York. And the way I wound up with two of them was because while we were in the museum, a fire alarm went off. And so we went to shop around the corner at another bookstore where I saw this book for $8. They were selling it for $10 in the museum, so I figured I'd buy it and save money. Then when we went back to the museum and I bought books, I purchased more than $50 worth, and what do you know? With $50 purchase, they give you a free book. What's the book? This book. So I wound up with two of them. I didn't want to go back and return the $8 book. So one I'll read and one I'll save. But that's how I wound up with two of them. This book I've wanted to get for a long time. Frederick Remington, The Color of Night. It showcases his artwork with night scenes. He was kind of unique at doing that. Very talented with painting night scenes. I always see it in hardcover, and it's very expensive. So the softcover I picked up at the Frederick Remington Museum in Ogdensburg. Here's another Remington book I picked up. This might have been also, I think I got this at the museum too. And this one too, Edward Boreen, Cowboy Artist. There's some color pictures in here also. He was pretty good. Now this I got at the Phoenix Used Bookstore, $1. Ledger Art, Bear's Heart. I already have this book, but it was only $1. I didn't know it was going to be $1. I asked him how much it was, and he looked at it and said $1. So I looked at him and I said, sold. This here I have in hardcover. This was marked at $12, and I asked the owner of the store if he could do any better. If it's been sitting around a while, maybe he wanted to get rid of it already. So he looked at it for a moment and said, how about $7.50? And I said, deal. So that was a steal. There's some color pictures in here too. Joe Biella is a pretty good artist. Again, I have it in hardcover, but now I have the softcover too. And at a museum in Bennington, Vermont, an art museum, they were giving these away. I got the last three issues of Western Art Collector. There's some nice images in here. Let me see here. Nice images, Western Art, Indians, and each one. So, good deal, free. And that's it for this particular trip and this particular book haul. Bye-bye.